Ladies and gentlemen, now this evening, courtesy of the legendary data miner Otriux, we are going to be breaking down the early data mine abilities for Nick Fury and the brand new version of Captain Marvel. And there's also apparently a bit of a surprise in the game files as well, and that is Gamora is apparently getting buffed. So we're going to get to that in good time, but I wanted to start off today doing the first video on Nick Fury because there is so much to cover here, man. His abilities look absolutely mad, and the synergies are insane. He's kind of got Heimdall-style synergies, where he acts as a support character, but he can do stuff like remove debuffs, give champions Iceman immunity. There are honestly some mad synergies, man. It's really, really crazy, so I'm really looking forward to talking about this a little bit today, and also getting your thoughts in the comment section below. But I think the first thing is probably the signature ability, man. The signature ability seems absolutely wild. So the signature ability is called Life Model Decoy. When Nick would be knocked out, his life model decoy is destroyed, and instead he returns to fight with a permanent Fury's Fury buff and stun immunity. However, Nick loses his Infinity formula and passively degenerates 100% of his health over the next certain amount of seconds. The destruction of Nick's decoy removes all effects and isn't affected by ability accuracy reduction. So this signature ability sounds absolutely mad. Basically, when Nick Fury dies, there's going to be like a version of him that comes back, and he's going to have Fury stun immunity, but that version is only going to be able to last a certain amount of time. So it's kind of like a cheat death. You revive up, you can go ham for a little bit, but you are going to die after a certain amount of time. So that one seems really good, man. Really, really good. And a very, very nice bonus for the champion. Maybe a little bit annoying on Alliance War defense, but I assume you can just kind of like avoid this and wait this out to avoid fighting, you know, stun immune Nick Fury there. But yeah, maybe when fighting him, this might get old a little bit quickly and might be a bit annoying. But it does seem very fun, man. It does seem very, very fun there. Now, in terms of some of the abilities that Nick Fury has, and just as a disclaimer, some of the stuff between the data mined and the live server, it can change, and also we do not have a lot of the specific numerical values to determine, you know, how effective certain stuff is going to be, just as a couple of disclaimers out there. But let's look at his abilities. So the first thing, which seems really, really good here, especially in matchups like Medusa. When hitting into auto block, Nick is stun immune and has a 100% chance to inflict a bleed, dealing a certain amount of damage over a certain amount of seconds. So that seems really, really good. He's just immune to being parried on the auto block there, so that's a proper great time. We also have critical rating. So when striking a bleeding opponent, Nick's critical rating is increased by a certain amount, and his attacks also ignore 100% of physical resistance. So some interesting stuff there. It looks like the heavy attack has a 100% chance to provide 3 stacks of bleed on the opponent. And one of the common things for Nick Fury is there seems to be a lot of bleed. So I imagine they're kind of gearing him up to be a character in a way that's maybe played like a skill version of Carnage, where there's lots of little bleeds that stack up and do some pretty crazy stuff there. But yeah, the heavy attack, man, 3 stacks of bleed, that seems like a pretty good time there. We also have ending a combo with a light attack, has a 100% chance to inflict a bleed, dealing a certain amount of damage over a certain amount of seconds, and also landing any medium attack also inflicts 1 bleed as well. So there are going to be some interesting ways that you can play him with like maybe a medium and heavy to get 4 bleeds out of a combo there. We also have internal bleed as well. So if the opponent gets 8 stacks of bleed, their bleed effects are removed and replaced with a passive internal bleed, which deals a certain amount of damage over a certain amount of seconds. So yeah, as soon as you get to 8 stacks, you get kind of a mega bleed there, which is a passive. I'm not really too sure how long that one's going to last, but it does seem very, very interesting. And then we also have increased duration. So while internal bleed is active, all the opponent's bleed debuffs have increased additional duration per tactical charge that Nick Fury has, and that's an additional mechanic that we're going to talk about in just 1 second as well. Now the next one, regen potency, I'm not too sure if this is right here, but this is while the opponent is not under the effect of a regeneration buff, all of Nick's bleeds are 100%. So yeah, that one seems to be worded a little bit weird. I'm not really too sure if that's complete in the game files, but I imagine that probably increases like either the damage or duration of bleeds when the opponent has regeneration, but it might be when the opponent doesn't have regeneration, in which case that's probably a lot more times than, you know, the opponent does have regeneration. But yeah, that one's a little bit of an interesting one. Again, not really too sure how that's going to function there. Then next up we've got Shrug, which is knocking down the opponent purifies Nick's non-damaging debuff. So this one's a little bit interesting. I mean, a lot of the debuffs, you know, that are the most threatening are the ones that deal a lot of damage. But I believe there's also a way with the tactical charge mechanic, when you get to a certain amount, to actually make it purify damaging debuffs as well. So let's go a little bit further into, you know, what Nick Fury can do. So we've got his tactical charges mechanic. So he starts the fight with 6 charges when fighting an Avenger. I assume against other opponents he starts with 0. And Nick loses 1 charge every certain amount of seconds, but when he's above 10 of these charges, it decreases to he loses 1 every 4 seconds. But additionally, if the opponent performs a well-timed block, Nick loses 1 charge. So a way to kind of get these charges down is to parry Nick Fury there. However, when Nick is struck, he has a 100% chance to gain 1 tactical charge, reduced to 25% against mutant opponents. So it really does look like, you know, mutants are going to be the counter, because he just looks like he's going to gain these like absolute mad if you are fighting him with any other champion aside from that of the mutant class at the moment. And also, while Nick is under the effect of a Fury, tactical charge durations are paused. And there are various benefits with these charges at various intervals. So when he's got over 5, Nick's attacks can't miss or be evaded. So that might be really, really good for the champion, especially because you can generate these while playing the character. And we'll talk about that in a second. 10 charges is the one where Nick's Purify effect now targets all debuffs. So you can get rid of the bad stuff as well, which seems like a pretty damn good time. At 15 charges, Nick becomes unblockable. I don't know if that's like with absolutely everything or just special attacks, but yeah, that seems like it could be you know, pretty useful, like Aeon style Nick Fury there, so might be fairly interesting. And then finally at 20 charges, all charges are removed and replaced with a Fury's Fury buff, which grants an additional amount of attack rating for a certain amount of seconds, and all tactical charge gains are doubled while Fury's Fury is active. Now, what are the ways that you can gain some tactical charges? And it kind of seems like the only one at the moment is really kind of spamming the special one, which is Shield Airstrike. So Nick throws a tracker onto his opponent, calling in multiple strikes from a helicarrier above. That sounds really, really good. And this is going to disorientate the opponent, reducing their block proficiency by 50%, and also reduce defensive ability accuracy by 70% as well. We don't know how long this debuff is going to be, but a 70% ability accuracy reduction is very, very strong. And coming off the special one as well, if it's got, you know, I would say at least like an 8 to 12 second duration, this is going to make him very, very good for fighting a lot of things in Alliance War, because he's going to be able to get that up very, very quickly, and really reduce kind of rock stack that gain there. So that might be, you know, quite useful. And while performing this attack, he will immediately gain 4 tactical charges, so you can spam the special one to get them up, but they are also going to, you know, degenerate over time as well. And then we got the special 2, tactical takedown. Nick lets loose a series of knife slashes, followed by a shot from his pistol. So he slashes the opponent, causing up to 4 stacks of bleed, each dealing a certain amount of damage, and then also has a chance to stun the opponent for a certain amount of seconds, and increases by a flat 10% for each of Nick's tactical charges there. So maybe this is, you know, a bit more of a penalty if you fail at this one on Alliance War defense in terms of evading it, but that could make him a little bit lethal maybe in certain scenarios. And then finally special 3, Destroyer Gun. Nick throws an electrical gadget at the opponent, shocking them and holding them in their place before firing a deadly shot from his Destroyer Gun, and this has additional attack if Fury's Fury is active, and additional attack if Eternal Bleed is active. So if you can get both of them, man, this is going to deal, I assume, a lot of damage there and be a very, very nice kind of finishing interesting move. So yeah, that seems awesome. But it doesn't stop there, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, we're only just beginning in terms of the fun. So kind of Nick Fury acts in terms of Heimdall synergies. So a lot of his synergies, or pretty much all of them, benefit all champions apart from Nick Fury himself. And there are a ton of different ones that are going to be combined with different characters that I assume aren't listed at the moment. So you are probably going to need certain characters to trigger each one of these synergies, but we don't know exactly which ones yet. So the first one, Strategic Sabotage, seems really, really good. So if Nick is alive, the first 3 unblocked hits from the opponent have a 100% chance to be evaded. So if you're playing a character and, you know, going for intercepts, you've got kind of like 3 scenarios where you're going to auto-evade and get out of that scenario if you do mess up. So that seems really, really good. That seems like a really OP synergy there. Could be very, very useful for a lot of scenarios, man. That one seems absolutely great. This one is going to make him so worthwhile for so many different players here. So this is the Extreme Conditions kit, and if Nick is alive, once per fight when a teammate is inflicted with any Cold Snap, Frostbite, or Incinerate effect, he will drop an Extreme Conditions kit, granting debuff immunity for a certain amount of seconds. So yeah, that seems very good for Iceman matchups. Also, you know, any Incinerate nodes in the future as well. So that one might be a little bit interesting. I'm interested to see if this as well does work on kind of Incinerate nodes that we're seeing in map 7, because that could open those nodes up to a lot more champions as well. And then we have increased firepower. So if Nick is alive when the fight starts, he grants his teammates a buff, doubling their critical rating for a certain amount of seconds. You know, that might be alright for certain champions. Nick's leadership. So all hero champions except Nick get additional attack rating, and this boost is doubled if Nick is dead. So there are, you know, 2 different conditions for the synergy as well. You've got if Nick is alive for certain stuff, and if Nick is dead for other stuff. So a little bit interesting there, man. But that one could be very, very good for certain hero champions. I'm interested to see, because there are a lot of you know, incredibly powerful like Hyperion, Stark Enhanced Spider-Man that are I believe marked as heroes. So yeah, I'm interested to see what happens with that one. And then we've got contingency plans. So if Nick is alive, all Fury buffs have percentage increased duration, including his own. So I imagine this is going to be with some Fury based characters there. And then we've got Power Kit. So if Nick is alive, once per fight when a teammate is affected by a Power Steal, Power Lock, or Power Drain effect, he will drop a Power Kit, removing the effect and granting 1 bar of power over a certain amount of seconds. So yeah, that seems really, really insane. I'm interested to see if that like combos with those you know, we've seen those nodes in the last, like, year or so that, like, drain all your power and then, like, kill you. So if Nick Fury is a way to, like, get around those nodes, that could just make him absolutely amazing there. And finally, we got the Restoration Kit. So if Nick is alive once per fight, when a teammate is inflicted with a Bleed, Poison, or Shock debuff, he drops a Restoration Kit, purifying the debuff and regenerating a percentage of their maximum health over 3 seconds. So, you know, just having Nick Fury on your team could mean that you can get around any bleed, any poison, or any shock node, which seems absolutely mad if true. So yeah, the synergies are just crazy. They're some of the best synergies that we've ever seen on a champion, and I really hope all of them make it to live, because I don't think anything's like too crazy overpowered, but they seem just like such incredible benefits from the synergies there. So yeah, ton of damage, man. Really, really solid utility, some very, very interesting stuff, but also just one more thing to add is he does have a synergy with a brand new Captain Marvel, which kind of allows his tactical advantage charges to last a little bit longer as well. So that's something to keep in mind, that they are probably going to synergize quite well together. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for the first video, breaking down the early data mine abilities of Nick Fury. This champion looks absolutely amazing. I'm really, really looking forward to seeing him in action. And remember, in his current state, man, you probably want to bring some mutants when fighting Nick Fury, but you know, we're going to find out all of this stuff firsthand next Wednesday as well on the Uncollected live stream. So yeah, let me know what you think of Nick Fury in the comments section below. Aside from that, thank you very much for watching. Smash that like button for the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. there. Take care, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic day.